Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Data Drive Sustainability Success Through Farmer-Led Initiatives webinar. My name is Catherine Garcia, and I will be the moderator for the webinar. In 1959, AgSource was formed to serve Wisconsin dairy farmers. What began as a regional dairy records processing cooperative has now grown into the AgSource of today, serving industries that span the entire agricultural ecosystem. From cutting-edge soil, plant tissue, and water testing to agronomic consulting and full-service DHI testing, AgSource at its core is a source of truth. One test at a time, we help our clients make the best decisions, always grounded in data. I'm excited to introduce our presenters, Lauren Brey and Kate Chamberlain. Lauren is the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Sustainability at Edge Dairy Farm Cooperative. In this role, she serves as the Managing Director of Farmers for Sustainable Food and directs their support of farmer-led conservation groups and sustainability projects. Lauren is also responsible for fostering relationships with other organizations to bring more value and resources to the members of EDGE. She previously worked as a scientist for a cheese company. She's a 2013 graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a degree in food science and life sciences communication. She is also involved in her family's dairy and beef farm, Brey Cycle Farm LLC, and Brey Family Beef in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. Also joining us is Kate Chamberlain. Kate is currently the Business Development Manager at AgSource, where she is focused on exploring sustainability opportunities, building partnerships, and supporting AgSource members. Kate has spent her entire career in the cattle industry with an educational background in both animal science and business. In her free time, Kate and her family graze a herd of Angus cattle and try to hit the trails with their horses as often as possible. I'm now excited to turn it over to Lauren to get us started with our presentation.
Thank you, Kate, and hello, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today and share more about how data drives sustainability and how we are supporting success through farmer-led initiatives and how you might be able to participate or start these own types of initiatives in your area. Hopefully everybody on this webinar is well aware that people care about how their food is produced today. Things like sustainability, animal care, and transparency are top of mind. And a lot of people are also asking for government mandated labeling on food products, about environmental scores, or more about how food is produced and transparently. At the same time, we know we've been stewards of the environment and are looking for those reliable sources of information to make confident management decisions, especially when it comes to implementing new practices on the farm, be for animal care or conservation. Additionally, current sustainability efforts really focus on that education and what the environmental outcomes of changing practices on the farm are, which is important. But at the same time, we need to know before making that decision on our farms, is this going to help me make more money or am I going to lose money? Or maybe stay the same with changing this practice. So that return on investment is kind of a missing piece that we're working to address. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with the Net Zero initiative announced by our National Dairy Checkup, where as an industry, we've committed to achieving these goals. And this is really important. At the bottom here is my point. This commitment to transparency. We've committed to reporting quantitative and credible measures every 5 years. And that's an admirable goal. It's important, again, to relate back to that customer demand for transparency about how we're producing food today. Yet at the same time, we know farmers have a lot on their plates already. And this is just another thing to add. So our organization is focusing on how we can support farmers in that data collection space so we can add the information from our farms to what our processors are doing to reaffirm the sustainability of the products we're producing on our farms. Additionally, financial compensation is a critical yet missing link in this space. Only 30% of farmers surveyed by Field to Market believe that they've been fairly compensated for the conservation practices they've implemented on their farms. And only 15% say they've gotten better marketplace access from doing more around sustainability and conservation. And at the end of the day, we know farmers are going to need to be rewarded for making progress, making changes, and doing better for all of us. So we are, again, working to figure out how we can help farmers benefit from going above and beyond. So all those challenges I just mentioned and in this landscape was the reason that Farmers for Sustainable Food was founded. Farmers for Sustainable Food is a collaborative nonprofit organization providing resources, advocacy, support, and empowerment for farmers who are doing this work on the ground. We were founded by Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative and the Dairy Business Association in partnership with D. So Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative represents farmers in about 10 states in the upper Midwest on federal policy and the federal milk marketing orders. And the Dairy Business Association is based here in Wisconsin and works to advocate on behalf of the dairy community in the state capital. And our boards of directors saw the need to support members, but also other farmers in the sustainability space. And Farmers for Sustainable Food, our nonprofit, was born. Our mission is to empower farmers to develop and implement practical, innovative solutions collaboratively for environmental, economic, and social good. Those are those three pillars of sustainability. Our vision is a sustainable food system in which farmers, their communities, and the environment thrive. So the work that we do, I really boil it down to two buckets. On the left-hand side, those icons represent how we develop and manage sustainability projects with farmers as the focus and supply chain partners. And I'll be getting into some specific examples of those shortly. On the right-hand side, those icons represent how we work with farmers directly. We currently support 9 farmer-led watershed conservation groups, 8 of them in Wisconsin and 1 in Minnesota. And we are kind of like association management for these farmer-led volunteer nonprofit organizations, helping them get more farmers engaged in local communities, making changes on their farms, learning from one another and from experts in the area about how they can continue to improve the environment and try new practices. These are the farmer-led groups we support just for a visual representation. The farmer-led watershed conservation group movement really has been strong in Wisconsin. There's some state funding available through our state's Department of Agriculture, and that's how many of these groups got started and are supported. And then other states are taking notice, and we have been working with a group of farmers in southeast Minnesota that are trying to do similar work. So we're really excited to see this farmer-led movement growing. Again, just for some context, those farmer-led groups represent over 373 farmers as of data from 2023, a lot of acres and a lot of livestock. And just to note, while we were founded by dairy organizations, Edge and the Dairy Business Association, through Farmers for Sustainable Food and farmer-led groups, we're actually supporting farms of all types in those farmer-led groups. A lot of them are dairy farms, but there's also crop farms or beef farms, hog, goat, others that even a mink farm is involved in a group in a local watershed. So it's really about farmers in a local community getting together to learn from one another. FSF as a whole has over 60 members, and we've completed now 4 sustainability projects in 2 states, and we are greatly expanding that program, as I'll get into here shortly. When it comes to sustainability projects, there's not a lot of resources there. And if you're a farmer or an organization looking to get involved in this space, it might be daunting or you don't know where to start. Well, we have a free resource that's available for anybody to access on our website, really a how-to guide, things to think about for a successful sustainability project. We don't prescribe tools, we don't prescribe practices for farmers. Rather, it's how do you set goals? Who are the types of support systems and organizations that should be at the table for something to take place in your area? What are those local resource concerns? So again, this is a free resource that all of our projects are on, and we hope others take advantage of. So that framework has been put to the test. Since 2019, we've been doing sustainability projects. Our main pilot project in the southwest part of Wisconsin has had farmers complete both financial and environmental analyses, and we've demonstrated that the conservation those farmers are using is significantly helping water quality. At the same time, farmers are receiving individualized reports that they can use to better manage their farms with our support and participate in that peer-to-peer learning that we're helping facilitate. So really, it's about getting the farmers together, talking amongst one another, learning from one another and experts on how they can continue to make progress on their goals. And again, at the end of the day, we're not prescribing practices. The farmers are choosing what they're doing on their farms. We're just helping them document it and what it means for sustainability metrics, and then how they can use that information to make management decisions based on their goals. So how we are a little bit different, or how our projects work. The data is submitted, reports are generated, and we really focus on this individual farmer view. So it's not just you have to complete something and you get a printout or an email and it goes up on a shelf and you never learn how to use it. We offer the farms that participate that one-on-one so they can understand those reports and the scores that are coming out of it and get input if they're looking for it on how they could adjust those scores or what they could do to improve their scores. So we support them in that next season goal setting with the farmers themselves and any advisor they'd like to have involved. And then again, we facilitate that peer-to-peer learning. So yearly workshops with farms to get together with our projects as well that have over 10 farms participating. There's the ability to benchmark and stoke that competitive spirit to help farmers see where they compare against their peers, as well as state and national benchmarks where we have the data to show their progress and help encourage that improvement. Outcome reporting is where all the farmers in a project, their results are aggregated, and then we can talk about it in the local community. We support them through press releases, media interviews, social media, trying to get that word out about the improvements that they're making in their local community. Collaboration is key in this type of initiative. In our pilot, we had over a dozen partners that came together to make it happen, whether that was through participation in kind or sponsorship funding. And at the end of the day, it was really about farmers getting that management information and a story to share with their community. At the same time, those supply chain partners like Brey Cheese Company, Nestle, were getting the sustainability proof of farms in their supply chain. How did this come about? The farmer-led groups that I mentioned, they've been very popular, and we know a lot more farmers are talking about conservation. And we might have a lot of anecdotal evidence, like, well, my fields have better carrying capacity for my equipment or better water holding capacity or yield data, but there's not a lot around, do we really know if this conservation and the changes we're making are helping improve those local resource concerns that might be of concern to us as a farmer and or our neighbors. At the same time, we were approached by Brey Cheese Company to help them in their sustainability reporting to some of their customers like Nestle. So we brought the partners together to discuss this pilot and developed the framework. At the same time, we engaged a consulting firm out of the upper Midwest because we don't have the data crunching capabilities on our team, but we have some really trusted advisors in that space who can speak the farmer language as well. In this pilot, there's been 15 farms participating, and there's 4 years of data on the website. So you can read those reports and those summaries to get a better idea. This project will go for over 5 years. It's going to be transitioning into our climate smart opportunity that I'll be sharing shortly. And we've done multiple projects since then. So what does a project look like? Well, it's really customizable when we work through our framework. It's really dependent on the partners and the farmers and what they're looking to get out of it. And there's not one tool that measures the sustainability of our whole farm. We don't have something we can put all of our information in and get the financial analysis, the crop analysis, the barn analysis to know really that full picture. So we're trying to put different pieces of the puzzle together. So in this pilot, we've used a variety of tools with the different farm participants to try to get that whole farm picture. But I will share that there's not a perfect answer at this time. Yet the exciting part is that we're trying things out and we're making progress in that space. So tools might change. We might find something better in the future, which is great. But we have to start today. And that's what's, I think, been exciting about this type of project is there's farmers already engaging, trying these tools to see what really works for them and what's giving them value. Here's just some highlights of the results. I know there's a lot on here. And again, you can read the full reports on our website. But just to show to all of you that there is some positive information coming out of this type of work. So we are mitigating risk of excessive loss of nitrogen. Farms are using less acreage to produce a ton of corn silage compared to a state benchmark. We're seeing lower soil erosion than the state average for corn grain. And what really gets everyone excited at these yearly farmer-to-farmer workshops is that we're seeing some really positive results from the financial analysis with a small group of farmers participating. That implementing environmentally friendly practices into their cropping systems is resulting in a yield advantage, profitable net return per acre, as well as those positive sustainability metrics without increasing their input costs. So that's been very positive to see, and we will be expanding that financial analysis again through our climate smart opportunity. So I talked a lot about what's happening on the crop side and what we're doing in the fields. At the same time, we know that methane emissions or what's happening in the barns also contributes to the sustainability of our farms. So we are trying to dip our toes into that space as well, and through a partnership project with Zoetis that has 2 years of genomic data analyzed. We are showing that you can breed your cows to be more profitable and more sustainable at the same time. And this is something we're trying to socialize more in the community, because we know farmers have to breed their cows every day. So this isn't necessarily an added cost unless you add in that genomic testing, or you might already be doing some genomic testing. So how can you tweak your genetic selection criteria to make big improvements in your sustainability, but also the profitability of your herd? So the information about this study is also available on our website, but just a quick highlight, through 2 years of data, we're seeing a 10% improvement in energy corrected milk production, a large reduction in antibiotic usage, and a decrease in methane production year over year. So pretty cool stuff to see that this is already happening on farms. So we're trying to start documenting that. So again, as a dairy community, we can show our progress, not just in the fields, but from the animal side as well. So now to climate smart. How are we expanding this work? You might be familiar with a new grant program from the United States Department of Agriculture called the Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities. And Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative, FSF's sister organization, was awarded up to $50 million on our project. It includes about a dozen partners. Farmers for Sustainable Food, our nonprofit, is one of those partners, along with the beet sugar industry and their cooperatives, among many others. So that farmer-led that farm level sustainability project handbook that I shared and our project model is really what we are expanding through this grant funding. So it's all about setting up and supporting farmer-led sustainability projects focused on documenting and implementing conservation to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions, and then also improve our storing of carbon in the soil. We have a unique approach. I mentioned some of this when I talked about our projects, but now with the Climate Smart funding, we're able to reward farmers for participating, and there's no charge or cost for a farmer to participate. So I think that's an exciting piece of how we're trying to help farmers get some value out of sharing their data. We have that tested, proven model with the multiple projects we've completed that's happened not only in Wisconsin, but also a project in South Dakota, and years of data already done. We're enabling unique connections to processors and the supply chain. Through our network of processors that Edge members ship to and the connections we've already made in our sustainability projects, we are trying to support farmers in connecting data to the processor as well as beyond in their supply chain, so they can get benefit from doing this work, and also making sure all that data is getting put together so we can report on those goals for that net zero initiative and show that the dairy community is making progress on sustainability. I mentioned this earlier, but it's important to reiterate, farmers are choosing what's best for them in projects. We're not dictating practices. Farmers choose what they're doing, and they have the opportunity to make practice changes or not. We hope that they will, but at the end of the day, it's up to them what practices are best for their farm and for their goals. Our project also offers what we call enhanced technical assistance. And I mentioned, or I alluded to this earlier in the project cycle, where when you get that report, you have that opportunity for a one-on-one with a trusted advisor, and bring in your management team to learn what do these scores mean and how can I influence those and make improvements. And we not only offer that from the farm, but can link processors with support to figure out how we put all this together and make progress as a supply chain. Finally, we have that foundation of this farmer-led model that I mentioned through the Edge network of members, over 850 farms across the upper Midwest, as well as the farm-led groups. We're really connected and integrated with farmers and have that trust built to be a support system. So how could you participate in our Climate Smart project? There's a variety of options. Of course, we are looking for Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative members to participate. If you're a member of a farmer-led group that works with Farmers for Sustainable Food and that farmer-led group wants to bring a project forward, and then if maybe you don't meet those criteria, but you ship your milk to another processor, we are looking for others to get involved and have processors bring projects forward. We are looking for a minimum of 10 farms in the first year for a project. That makes that benchmarking a little bit easier and the opportunity for that peer-to-peer learning, and a commitment to increasing the participants each year, because that will help us meet the benchmarks we set and committed to with the USDA. A farmer needs to be within the EDGE geography in the upper Midwest. And again, if you're not an EDGE member, talk with your processor to see if they're interested in getting a project going with us. We're looking for farmers that are willing to participate for the life of the grant. It's going through 2028 with our contract with USDA. Of course, you're going to need access to the data that we need. A lot of it's about what you're doing in the fields and your barns, but I think most farmers should be able to check that box. Non-dairy farmers are eligible to participate in a small capacity through a farmer-led group project, or if a crop farm is supplying a dairy farm with a lot of feed, we're also enrolling a small number of crop farmers if the dairy farm is enrolling and meets those other criteria. Again, because of what USDA is looking to get out of this, and based on our project model, we're looking for projects that can focus on that data sharing and supply chain. The farmer piece is primary and super important. We also want to connect it to that next step, to that processor and or that end customer, so we can show that flow of data and how we can monetize this for everybody. Here's the exciting part, the opportunities for farmers to be compensated for their participation. The contributor level is a simple greenhouse gas and carbon assessment, and for completing that each crop year is a $1,500 stipend for the farm. A more detailed assessment, plus some local resources like water quality as part of that evaluation, would be a $4,500 a year stipend. And then if a farmer chooses to share their scores, so not your raw data, but your scores, so your carbon score, greenhouse gas reductions, with your processor or other supply chain partner, you can receive $9,000 a year. So this is another version of that project cycle that's been enhanced thanks to the USDA funds. So submit the data. We make sure we have everything we need, and the farmer is compensated. I put that star there to just really show that that's kind of the addition to our project cycle that we're excited about, thanks to this funding opportunity to help farmers get some value out of participating beyond just that management information for their farm. Their reports will be generated. They'll have that chance for that individual farm review, again, to learn to make those next season goals and how they can make changes. And then the outcome reporting is really, again, aggregating on a project level. What's the impact all these farmers in a project that's participating and from our project as a whole are making, and getting that out in local communities and back to USDA and others that might be interested in the impact we're having. So enrollment is open as of March 1st. We are looking for farmers to participate. And if you're interested in learning more and applying, you can first visit our website, farmersforsustainablefood.com. There's a Climate Smart page, and or email this climatesmart@voiceofmilk.com. And that's also on the website. So it should be easy and get you in touch with our team to learn more. I'd just like to end on this note as well. Like, where do we go from here? And I think things that we're trying to address and think about. How do we reach middle and late adopters in the agriculture community? There's a lot of farmers already down this path and working on this and excited about it, and that's excellent. Yet at the same time, we know we have more farmers that need to start doing more and maybe get on board with some of these initiatives. So how can we incentivize and encourage more farmers to be part of these efforts? And a big part of what our team does is supporting the farmers in the data collection, the analysis, and understanding. But we need more people to be skilled in this space and to be excited about working with farmers and supporting them. It's a tight labor market already. This is an emerging space, and I think there's only going to be more demand for data from the farm level. But again, as farmers, if we already are probably doing too many things, and this is just another thing to learn and add to our plate. And if that's not what you're passionate about, how can we find some advisors and some support systems to bring this skill set to our team? How do we connect that farm data with the supply chain? Again, we're trying to test this out through Climate Smart, but we don't have the answer yet. We're just at the beginning of figuring out how we put all these puzzle pieces together. And again, a big focus, how do we make sure farmers get value out of this participation and are compensated for their data and or for the outcomes that they're making on their farms? Administrative and project support. This requires people, and people usually don't volunteer to do big activities like this. So how can we fund these types of efforts so it's not a burden on the farmers? Then how do we reach customers with the outcomes? The farmer-led groups have started a really positive trend of being transparent in the communities about the conservation practices they're using, hosting field days, the surveys that we help them do, and the data that we can show about progress they're making locally has started a positive trend. Yet at the end of the day, what are we going to do to meet those customer demands for transparency or environmental scores on food? How can we get all this together so it ends up on the grocery store shelf to reinforce that dairy products produced on the farm should be part of a customer's shopping cart? Finally, that consistent funding to do all this work. USDA's grant program is a great start and a really great opportunity for agriculture. Yet it's a 5-year program, and we know this work will have to continue long after that. So how does the supply chain work together to support all aspects of this so we can do this work and that everybody benefits from it? I don't have those answers, but things that we're hoping we'll learn a little bit more over the next few years through this grant and then after that as well. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it to Kate. My contact information is here, and I know will also be made available to everybody on the webinar today. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. The FSF reports, they're really well done. I've really enjoyed just learning from them, and that project framework we've definitely used as we develop some of our own internal projects. So just I've really enjoyed the opportunity to collaborate more with them and their group. So I'm going to take just a few minutes of your time to talk you through AgSource specifically and how we plug into the data side, the sustainability side of production. And I want to wrap it up with ways that you can get involved. So I'll dive in by just giving you a little bit of background on AgSource for anyone who doesn't have experience with us. We have 6 laboratories across the Midwest, all run by just incredible staff. I'm probably biased, but these teams are just super committed to quality, super committed to the customer. And we just have really fantastic experts located across the US and things from, well, really, we test everything from when that seed goes into the ground, the inputs, feeding that crop, water quality, both from a livestock standpoint. We do municipal water quality testing. Of course, we have a very strong milk testing and diagnostic lab, manure analysis, and then, of course, our food and environmental side of the business. So anything from when that seed goes into the ground until it becomes a final product, we probably can test it. So what we've done in the past in terms of partnerships, they've been really broad. We've had opportunity to partner with farmer groups like Practical Farmers of Iowa, with university research groups and different conservation groups. So I'll just quickly walk you through these 3 examples. With Practical Farmers of Iowa, we did some grazing research, so certainly something near and dear to my heart, but looking at soil health on rotationally grazed pastures over time, and how livestock really influence soil health. And we actually have a really great webinar that my colleague Jim Friedrichs did. Some of the folks from PFI, I would highly recommend that on our website. We've done a lot of work with UW, as you would imagine, around dairy and milk quality, both from an educational standpoint as well as some different projects. And then finally, we did a project with a local Wisconsin group where we looked at soil health on a bunch of fields, and we're able to bring in some technical experts to kind of digest that data and present back to their group of farms. So we really enjoy doing that kind of work. And kind of along the right-hand side there, you can see the things that we can offer. We're of course, a laboratory, which I'm sure you're aware of. We're a laboratory that's growing our testing suite. So how can we add things? How can we evolve our testing suite? How can we make things more insight-driven to really bring you the most value? We have a group of people that are far smarter than me that do an excellent job on the data analysis front. So maybe you have a project where you want some support on kind of interpreting that data and what does this mean? And, can we look at some of the statistics of it? We've done that with different groups. Great consulting, really in every pillar of our business, we have technical experts that are happy to both consult as well as give presentations. So please reach out if whatever's of interest to you. It's stuff we love doing. We love collaboration. That's always our goal. In that spirit, I would love to talk you through an opportunity to get involved with us this spring and collaborate. So I love this headline. It's out of I think, a Farm Progress article talking about how cattle are really a big opportunity for improving soil health. And as we head into 2024, or say we're in 2024, as we progress into 2024 further in the growing season, we're really keen to help grow the understanding around soil health and make that really sometimes hard to grasp connection between this is a lab result, this is what I do to manage these fields, how do I connect the two? And of course, we want to focus with producers that are integrating cattle, whether that's manure application or grazing. We know that cattle, because of access to organic inputs like manure or hoof action in a grazing scenario, or growing crops that are more perennial than annual, we really check a lot of the soil health boxes. So what we're going to offer this spring is a continuation of our fall study, which if you were on the first iteration of this webinar, you already heard about, but it's very similar. So what we would ask is that you could send in up to 5 soil samples at a discounted price to get a pretty robust suite of soil health analysis. And then we have just a very simple management survey. It's going to be basic things like yield, and that could be yield that you could just check a box. It was poor, it was average, it was outstanding. Things like manure application, did you integrate cover crops? What crop was grown? It's really simple. It's just checkbox style management survey. And why we think this is important, we're not just going to give you back a report full of, say, hey, good luck. We appreciate you participating. We want to really come alongside you and offer some interpretive data and some insights. So why we think that's important? A few different reasons. Lauren mentioned field print or field to market, I'm sorry. Some of those programs require things like organic matter or soil texture, and we've been intentional about including those in this project so that you're getting data back that's usable within these other platforms that are going to ask you information to calculate greenhouse gas emissions. Another reason we think this is important, we think having a field by field understanding of opportunities is important, not just generalizing across farms or regions, but you being able to say, hey, Kate, we sent in a poor performing field, an average, and then a really high performing field, what's the difference and why? So being able to give you a field specific understanding of what's going on is another goal of ours in this project. And then finally, we want to give you the opportunity to compare. So we'll anonymize data and give you an idea of where you fall against peers in your region. So just 3 quick reasons why we think this is important and why we think it would be valuable to participate. How to participate is we've tried to make this pretty straightforward as well. We have a great team in Stratford managing supply distributions, so you can contact them, get a kit. What you'll receive is soil bags, a label to get that back to the lab, overview of the project, how to pull a sample. So if you're going to be the one sampling and not your co-op or your agronomist, if you want to go pull that sample, we'll help you do that with a pretty in-depth guide. And then finally, that management survey that should come alongside each sample. That's how we know we want to be a part of the project. Next, you can just go out, collect that soil sample, throw it in a box by July 1st and get it to the lab. We will then analyze that big group of samples, and by late summer, early fall, send you back not just your report with your results, but also a pretty in-depth report of the project. And that would include those benchmarks, how are your peers, in the region measuring up, lots of different stuff. We're really keen to collaborate, get feedback from folks like yourselves or farms you work with. And then we've also added kind of a unique piece to our report where it's not just data, it's also, we're looking at we call it an opportunity analyzer. So, okay, maybe based on my management history, based on my soil results, is manure application my biggest opportunity here? Is cover cropping? Is it tillage change? We've really worked to offer some insight there, as well as some various calculated measures, things like how do I think about acre inches of plant available water? That's based on soil texture and organic matter. And the takeaway then would be I can look at this chart and say, hey, I know increasing organic matter is good, but maybe what I'm not going to get out of this is any increased plant available water. That's fine, but maybe I need to think about a different reason to increase organic matter or focus on a different opportunity like increasing soil biology. So our goal is really to give you a holistic view of where your field's at, not to give you all the answers, but to help structure how you think about it. And to do that, we want to offer a pretty aggressive discount on some soil testing and hopefully collaborate with you in that effort. So if you'd like to learn more, I'll pop a QR code up. Feel free to scan that. It's like a very brief questionnaire. We'll reach back out and get started. But with that, I think we can go ahead and transition into questions. Kate, any housekeeping?
No, anyone, you are welcome to ask questions via the chat window or the Q&A. We did have a couple questions come in, so I will go ahead and ask them of our presenters. The first question that came in, Lauren, I heard that USDA was easing data requirements for the climate smart commodity grants. Does that change EDGE's approach?
Great question. And that is true. Undersecretary Bonnie did make comments that they were looking at easing the requirements. We don't know what that looks like yet. We are hopeful that will happen, and we actually did just provide some suggestions back to USDA as of Monday this week. However, I think it really won't impact our approach from the broad perspective in terms of our goals, kind of how it's really still farmer led. But it will make it probably less burdensome on the farmer because ideally a farmer would be able to provide less information for some of the numbers that we do have to run. As of now, they're requiring the entire farm have information be shared. So we have to look at 100% of acreage, whereas our hope was we would be able to do a smaller sampling, like a 10% of acres, and kind of get more of a snapshot of a farm. But the current requirements are 100%. So we're moving forward with that and hopeful that USDA will take into account feedback to make this more attractive to farmers and easier for everybody to execute, yet at the same time, still get information that's useful for all those participating.
Great, thank you. And then we did have a few questions come in for you, Kate. First one, for the county average information, what are you using as a source for that data?
Yeah, great question. So it's not necessarily a county average. We've done it by region, quote unquote, right? And that's driven by, do we have enough samples within a region to make a generalization? If we don't, we'll admit that we don't. If there's not publicly available data, we collaborate with some universities on some things, and we're able to pull from their database to make benchmark calculations. We will do that. But at the end of the day, we're looking to get into those areas where benchmarks don't exist, right? So if you think you're in one of those areas where that's not available, I would love to talk further, because that's one of our goals is, hey, there's pockets of not just Wisconsin, but the Midwest and the US as a whole, where we could be a lot better about understanding where we're at on soil health. But we need to collect some samples and some data and some partners really to do that.
The next question actually feeds right into that. Is there any geographic limitations to the soil health study?
No, actually, that's something that's kind of fun about the spring opportunity is it's wide open. So go ahead and reach out, to me directly. I think Kate's going to share our contact information, or fill out that form via the QR code I had shared, and I'd love to chat further.
Perfect. Another question that came in is if I already test for soil health with AgSource, do I still qualify for the soil health study?
Yeah, we love working with existing customers.
And then the final question I have that came in, what kind of insights did you guys find during the fall soil health project?
Hey, that's excellent. So I'm going to generalize. And one of the big things we learned was we need more variation, right? So love having dairies participate, love having Wisconsin-based folks participate, but we're pretty limited on what soil texture we looked at. And that has a big influence on some of both the physical aspects of, texture and water holding capacity and things like that. We also learned, of our sample set, and it's again likely based on the need for more variation. Some of these farms have big opportunities in some areas, and some are doing really great. So, for example, when we think about a soil health score, we were pretty well distributed. Think of your bell curve. It's going to get a little sciencey here, but we had the majority score right in the middle where we'd want them to. But we had some outliers we learned a lot from. And the big takeaway was the farms doing the best really are doing a mixture of practices. They're not every year manure application, but no cover crops, and conventional tillage. It was probably like a mixture. Like maybe I had to conventional till one year. Maybe I didn't get manure on one year. And maybe I'm just dabbling and learning about cover crops. Those are the farms that perform the best for the parameters we measured. So we're keen to dig into that further of, is it really just a mixture of practices that improve soil health or maintain soil health? Or, does manure have a bigger impact? If that is a bigger impact, is it a bigger impact over time, or is it just a quick spike over 2 years? All things, I think we learned more about what we don't know than what we do. But we're able to put together a fun report regardless.
Great, thank you. That was all the questions I had come in so far. I really appreciate both Kate and Lauren's time today in presenting such an interesting topic. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. You can go to the AgSource contact page, but like we mentioned, we will be sending out an email with contact information for both Lauren and Kate, as well as additional materials through Lauren and Edge. If you have any other questions, direct them to our contact page. We appreciate everyone's time today, and we hope you have a wonderful day.